Alright, something that I noticed that we all could work on is using quotes effectively. Remember, we know that we need to have quotes as evidence, we need to have proof that our ideas are legitimate, and we want them to be fluid. We want them to go well with the rest of our writing. Something I want you to remember is that quotes should act as proof, not content. The majority of the content of your essay should be your own ideas. The quotes just support them. Okay, so let's look at that a little bit more of what that actually means. Okay. 1. Only use as much of a quote as you actually need. You want to avoid large quotes. What you really want to do is find the best part of the quote that best supports your ideas and use that. Because it doesn't matter how much of a quote you have supported, it just matters that you've supported yourself. 2. Quotes should match the content previously stated in the how section of your paragraph. You want to avoid drop quotes. A drop quote is a quote that is just placed into a paragraph and it has no introduction, it has no connection to the previous ideas. It's just there and the reader has no idea its purpose. Okay. So that leads us to number 3. Give the quote a purpose. You want to introduce your quote. Whether that's just by simply talking about your ideas that match the quote, or giving an actual simple introduction, and we'll look at that a little bit later in this presentation. You actually want to introduce your quote somehow. And 4. Quotes cannot be their own sentence. I kind of said that before, I've been through that in class, but you need to be aware of proper punctuation that goes with quotes. And they don't stand by themselves. So there's other punctuation that goes with them, also what we will address as we continue. Okay. But before we can look at how we do this, we need to know why. It's important to know why we want to use quotes effectively. Okay. So that's what we're going to look at next. Why is it important? Okay. First of all, the stronger the proof, the better your argument. That's why it's important to use good, effective quotes. Because the more you can prove your points, the stronger your points become, the harder it is to disprove them. Something that's a good introduction is just an introductory element. So, with punctuation. According to the article, and notice I have a comma there. Right. I have a comma here. Because I need to separate my introductory element from my actual quote. So if you have an introductory element, there needs to be a comma. So according to the article the in the form of a bird flew into the afterlife. And notice the citation. The author's last name. Okay? Several of you are still putting the full name or other stuff that does not belong into the citation. Here is the author's last name. If I had a page number to my article, if my article was more than one page, then I would add that page number. But it's one page, so I can just use the author's last name. The second way that I can introduce my quote is by attaching it directly to the idea. So notice my quote. The Egyptians believed one soul went into the afterlife as an ibis. The hieroglyph representing the soul is the sign of the crescent ibis. So I have my idea first, and then I've attached my link, I've attached my support to the idea. And notice I did that with a colon, because colon's attached. So a colon tells the reader that there's more connected to this idea. Okay, so anytime you have a complete sentence and you want to attach a quote to it, use a colon. If it's not a complete sentence, then it's the introductory element and there should be a comma. Okay, so only use a colon with a complete sentence. Notice I have better here. This is a better way to effectively introduce your links. Okay. The best way and the most fluid way is to actually blend the link into the explanation. So notice, because the soul rises into the afterlife in the form of a bird, and then I do my citation right after my link. The ibis falling to the earth represents the split of Doodle's soul leading to his death. So you can see here that I blended it right into my ideas. So I'm showing that I have support, but I'm also not distracting from the actual content of ideas that I want to create in my paragraph either. That's why this is really the best way for you to create your links if you want to use them. Something I want to point out here, so you need to change a quote, and I know I had it on the last slide, and I forgot to go show you there, so we actually go back to that last one. Let's see if I can get that. Yeah. Alright. So I'm going back to my last one. Okay, and you can see here, to get my quote to fit with my ideas, I had to change it a little bit. And sometimes, we can do that as a writer. Sometimes we must change a word or two in a quote, which is okay if brackets are used to show a change. So by having these brackets here, I'm telling my reader that I have changed the actual wording of this quote to fit my purposes. Okay. And when we're talking about the novel, if you want to blend in something about a character, and the character's name might not fit, but the pronoun he would, you can put in a bracket around the character's name and say he. Okay. As long as it's one or two words, that's okay. You don't want to go and change half of the quote. Okay. You want to keep the quote as close to directly as possible for the strongest evidence. Alright. So yeah, again, if I was blending and I needed to change it, I can do that because I have my bracket. Okay. Alright. So let's talk about the strongest types of proofs that we have. Okay. So we've talked about introducing our links. So what are the strongest possible things we can do for our links? The first, or the strongest thing you can do, is the actual direct quote. Okay. If you have a statistic, say you're reading an article and they're doing a study and there's a statistic, quote that statistic. So anything we can use as a primary source. Primary source meaning that they're directly witnessed. So anything that is directly from whatever you're researching or witnessed is really your strongest proof. Good proof could be really strong paraphrases. Okay. Now there's a difference between a really strong paraphrase and then simply restating the ideas of whatever you read. Okay. A strong paraphrase still has that purpose that a link would have. Okay. You're using it as an example to support the analysis. Okay. But if it doesn't support your analysis, you're just giving plot recap, it's not good. Okay. You don't want that. Okay. It has to have a purpose. Any material that was previously quoted, okay, so this would be our secondary sources. Say we read an article and they were quoting someone else who was supposedly an expert in the article, then you wouldn't want to use that as necessarily your strongest proof because it's now a secondary source. Because you're getting it secondhand from a different author who got it from that primary source. And really weak proof that really doesn't work at all, is material or brief mention of a text. So just a quick mention of it. It has no purpose. And really any material not cited, technically that's plagiarism. Right, so if you're not citing your paraphrases, if you're not citing your quotes, okay, technically you're stealing, and that's plagiarism, and that can get you in trouble. Okay. So now I want you to practice. I need you to look over your IBIS response that you got back. I want you to choose one of your links to effectively blend into the paragraph of ideas using one of the three possibilities. So if you want to add an introductory element to one of your links, go ahead. If you want you notice that your link really matches well with the idea, and you just want to change the punctuation so that it's being attached to your idea, that's fine. Or you can really challenge yourself and try to actually blend your link into your paragraph. Okay, but you're going to bring just that one section back to class so that we can look at it, and then show me that you're able to effectively introduce a quote.